Governor of Chiang Rai had said the rescue operation had begun. He'd also said that we'd start to hear about the progress later at night at 9 p.m. local. It is about gone just 8:15 p.m. local time in Chiang Rai, Thailand, and we have confirmation that 4 boys are already out, which is news that we really weren't expecting. We weren't expecting such progress so soon. We were told that the rescue operation would proceed with the divers going in, bringing the boys from the area that they've been taking shelter in one by one, bringing them to an area called Cave 3, and over there is a staging post for the rescue operation, and from there, one by one, they'd be taken out to a hospital about 58 kilometers, 36 miles from the cave complex. What we're hearing now is that 4 are already out. So this is news that we really weren't expecting. What we don't know yet, we don't know yet about the condition that these boys are in. We don't yet know about the status of the boys who remain inside the cave complex. But this is very, very promising news this evening in Thailand.
Well, I'm
Natasha?
really glad we can get that confirmation, at least on the number. But as you said, we are not sure of their condition. We understand, at least from Reuters, that in fact they're getting medical treatment. They might in fact be transported to that Chiang Rai hospital as we speak. Do you have a sense at this point, Nikhil, how long before they're all out?
We don't know for sure, but one of the things that has really struck everybody this evening is the rapid progress, as I said, of this operation. You'll recall that a few days ago when we were talking about the teams going inside this cave and going to where the boys were and coming back out, we were estimating from officials, from people who knew about the operations here, that it was about an 11-hour round trip. Now, given that this operation began this morning, 10 a.m. local time, it's just after 8 p.m. local time over here, clearly conditions are better. Conditions are clearly better and good enough that now 4 have been brought out. So it seems like that the let-up in the rain, which is something that the authorities were counting on, has really helped. And this is also why they went in today. The concern was, the governor this morning said, today is D-Day. By that he meant that the conditions were good, of course not ideal, but so much better than they have been before, and so much better than they're expected to be in coming days. In coming days, the monsoon returns. We're expecting heavy rain in this area. And once heavy rain hits this area again, there's a very, very high risk of flooding in this cave complex. Were that to happen, it would put the entire operation in jeopardy. That's why they went in today. Clearly, from what we've heard so far, the right decision. Natasha?
Nikhil, can you give me a sense of the mood? What are people saying? How are they feeling now that boys are making their way out of the cave?
People, Natasha, are waiting anxiously for more news, for more detail. They're, of course, pleased with what they've heard so far, but as I said, we don't know much. We know that 4 boys have come out. We don't know what their condition is. We don't know what the status of the others is. We don't know when they will actually come out of the cave complex. This is a very complicated rescue operation. There were at least 13 international divers who went in this morning, according to the governor. There were 4 Thai divers who went in alongside. It's a very complicated operation. Over the last few weeks, more than 2 weeks that these boys have been stranded in this cave complex, it's become a truly international rescue operation with teams from Thailand, the US, the UK, and beyond. So it's a very complicated operation, which is why, as promising as this news is, we're still waiting to hear more. Everyone here is anxiously waiting to hear more about these boys and about the boys that remain inside this cave complex. Natasha?
Nikhil, I could lose you at any point, but I'm going to keep pushing, because tell us about what happens to the boys once they are out. What happens at the hospital?
So they're going to go through medical checkups, Natasha. The hospital, as I said, is 58 kilometers, about 36 miles from the cave site. They'll be taken there. There'll be medical checkups. We don't know when we will actually first get to see them. We don't know what their condition is. They're going to go first to doctors. Medical teams had already gone in to the cave complex in recent days, and it was these medical teams that made the assessment that they were fit enough to be brought out, to be taken through this rescue operation, because it's not an easy rescue operation. It's a very long, complicated, treacherous path. The cave complex itself is about 10 kilometers long, so it wasn't an easy operation. It isn't an easy operation, I should say, rather. And medics were there to assess, to make sure that they could go through it. And 4 have now come out. We expect them to be taken to this hospital nearby, about a kilometer away from the hospital site. They'll be assessed over there, and then we'll wait to hear more news from the authorities. Natasha?
You're there, Nikhil. How are you feeling?
this is great news, Natasha. I mean, as I said, we don't know that much, but what we do know is unexpected, really. We weren't expecting to hear this. We've been out here reporting. CNN has been on the scene all these days and weeks that these boys have been missing. And so we've all been waiting to find out, first, will they be found? When they were found, to find out, well, when will they be taken out of the cave complex? Days went by. There was all kinds of speculation about how long it might take for the rescue teams to bring them out. Were the conditions good enough? Were they not good enough? It's raining. Is it going to rain more? If it rains more, will there be more flooding? Could that jeopardize the entire operation? So it's been ups and downs for everybody over here. So hearing this news earlier than we expected is extraordinary. But now we're waiting to find out more. We want to know more about the condition of the boys. We want to know more about the boys in there. But this is very, very promising news, Natasha. No doubt about that.
Yeah, we certainly understand that cautious optimism, but you're right. We didn't know how it was going to unfold. So far, so good. CNN reporter Nikhil Kumar in Chiang Rai, northern Thailand. Thank you so much. Okay, I understand we are now going to show you video that's just into us from Thailand concerning those first two boys who have reportedly been recovered from the cave. If we've got that, let's bring it up. The pictures we're showing you are of two ambulances speeding away from the cave site and moving towards the hospital. Now, each is believed to be carrying one of the boys. The facility is located some 50 kilometers from the cave entrance. You heard Nikhil reference that, so it's not that far away, relatively speaking. We understand dozens of doctors are on standby to conduct tests and treatment and get those boys healthy once again. So now you're taking a look at some part of the rescue operation. This, I believe, is still outside of Chiang Rai Hospital. The ambulances, and we just saw one drive by, are making their way with the boys. Well, that is where they are headed. That's where the doctors are waiting for them. That is where the treatment will take place. And presumably a lot of parents will also eventually be making their way there so that they can take care of their boys. So we'll continue to watch that. I want to remind everyone at home at this stage, we are going with the number 4. You heard Nikhil say that. We've got a number of news organizations saying that at least 4 boys have been recovered from that cave complex in northern Thailand. Some estimates put it as high as 6. We don't know that for sure. CBC News Network is making calls round the clock to confirm these details for you. We know they went in. All 13 went in 2 weeks ago. Potentially now as many as 4 or 6 have made their way out. As Nikhil said, cautiously, we're moving forward with optimism. We don't know the conditions of those who have come out. We don't know who has come out. Remember also there's a 25-year-old coach who's involved in all of this. So we're waiting for any updates on that. Let's bring in CBC's violates, who joins us from London on the international effort. So Dominic, the story is moving so quickly, and really it has gotten the attention of the entire world. Everyone's rooting for those kids. Remind us, how did the international community step up?
In a big way, to put it bluntly, Natasha, there is a large international team on the ground in Thailand. There are divers and then there are support staff as well. We don't know a great deal about them. They've been avoiding the media this week, but we know that Australia, for example, has sent 6 specialists to the scene, all of whom have search and rescue and cave diving skills. One of them, in fact, is a doctor and professional diver who's worked as an underwater cameraman on National Geographic documentaries and feature films. The United States, meanwhile, has sent a team of 17 Air Force rescue specialists from US Pacific Command based on the Japanese island of Okinawa to help out. Among them, I'm told, are pararescue and survival specialists, and they're backed up by additional support staff who are also now on the ground. China, too, has sent a team, a 6-man rescue team who brought some pretty sophisticated rescue equipment with them, including, it's being reported, an underwater robot and a 3D imager. So just a small taster there for you, really, of the scale of the international efforts to get these boys out. Other nations are involved as well. Experts from Japan, Myanmar and Laos are also at the scene. We also know that Finnish and Belgian nationals are helping out in the operation. And then, of course, there is that 3-man team from Britain who, along with Thai Navy SEAL divers, actually found the 12 teenagers and their coach some time ago, Natasha.
Yeah, let's talk about those British divers, because they went directly, once the plane landed, Dominic, to the cave site. Just an incredible effort on their part. asked to come because they're some of the best in the world. And I know I've said this to you before, but honestly, it's worth saying again. That video, that footage of when the boys were discovered, and hearing one of the divers with his British accent saying, "How many of you?" 13? Brilliant. I feel like that is the sound clip of this entire story, and that jubilation that followed around the world. Tell us about those British divers.
Yeah, it was truly an amazing moment, wasn't it? But as you say, this was a three-man team. They were sent by the British Cave Rescue Council at the request of the Thai authorities. We have a picture of the three men, which we can show you now. On the left of the screen is Richard Stanton. He's a leading cave diver who was involved in the rescue of 6 British soldiers who were trapped for 8 days in a flooded cave in Mexico back in 2004. He's also a firefighter, and he has picked up awards for that too, having been named Hero of the Year by one fire service here in the United Kingdom. Next up, in the middle of the photograph and wearing the head torch, is Charles Harper. Now, he has since left Thailand due to a medical appointment he had here back in the UK, but he certainly received a warm farewell from the authorities at the airport. He was given a certificate of appreciation by a senior Thai minister just before he boarded his plane. Finally, and on the far right there, we have John Valanthan. Now, he got into diving at university, but he's also a marathon runner and keen climber, having conquered El Capitan in America's Yosemite Park. Incidentally, both he and Richard Stanton on the far left have dived together before. In 2012, both men were honoured by the UK's Royal Humane Society for their part in the attempted rescue of a diver who went missing in France. Natasha.
Okay, thank you, Dominic.
Please move.
We're continuing to watch ongoing coverage of that risky rescue operation to save 12 Thai boys and their soccer coach. What you're looking at now is the ambulances racing by. You could hear someone, I believe in English, saying, please move, because of course, if the boys are inside one of those ambulances, they're trying to get to the hospital as quickly as possible. There are multiple reports that, in fact, as many as 4 boys have been recovered, rescued from the cave. Anyone who is rescued, as you can see, would immediately be taken to the hospital, and you can see that long line of people who are watching this scene unfold. Now, there have been significant developments in the Thailand story as we speak. The rescue operation to bring out the members of the soccer team trapped deep below the surface of the earth is still underway. Now, there are reports at least 4 of the boys have been brought out to the earth's surface. Ambulances, as we just showed you, have left the scene, and they're making their way to the hospital. Now, remember, folks, the boys are trapped 1 kilometer below the surface of the earth. They are underground, and in order to get out the cave, the boys have to travel about 4 kilometers to the entrance, which is the point where they went in. They will also have to dive at least once to get out. So theoretically, if in fact 4 boys are out, they have been able to dive, they've been able to swim, walk, crawl, climb, and eventually make their way out. So we don't know all the details. We don't know what condition they're in, and we're still waiting on all of the other boys to make their way out, and of course the coach as well. So we're being cautiously optimistic with the developments as they come in, and CBC News Network is working to confirm the details about how many boys are out and what condition they are in. We've also been waiting for a while for a press conference to start. It's not clear if that's even happening at this point, but we're waiting, and we're watching all of that, and the hospital as well. So Doug Munro is the provincial coordinator for the Cave Rescue Service for British Columbia. He says reports of some rescues seem to be quite encouraging. There's a long and difficult operation still ahead.
You have a very complicated evacuation, and getting people through it at any rate is an improvement over not getting people through it. Certainly, at this moment, the fact that we have ambulances leaving, also a good sign. It means you're transporting people to definitive care. Whenever you do a cave rescue, you always have 4 priorities there: to locate somebody, access them, stabilize them, and then transport them to definitive care. We now have a case of where 2 of these boys have, at that last step, they're transported to definitive care. It's fantastic news.
So if they were able to begin the operation at 10 o'clock their time in the morning, and now it's approximately 6 in the evening there, so we're talking about about 10 hours the whole process to take place, or about 8 hours for it to take place. Do you anticipate every couple of hours we're going to keep seeing the boys, or is this going to stretch out for a number of days?
It really depends on the logistical side of this operation, how many divers they have, how quickly those divers are recovered. We have heard reports that there's 18 divers working this operation, a mix of Thai and foreign divers from around the world. That's really going to be part of the limiting factor here. If they have enough divers that they can be moving people through the cave in a convoy, obviously you don't want them too close together because your rate of travel will vary depending on the nature of the passage, then we could see reports every few hours that a few more are out. Obviously, though, your divers, they're looking at doing 2 divers per subject being evacuated, they need to be fresh. You don't want them tired. You don't want them 12 hours, 15 hours in, because that increases the risk to everybody.
BC Provincial Coordinator for Cave Rescue Service, that was Doug Munro. Now, I just want to let folks at home know while we go to this live shot outside the Chiang Rai Hospital, where we understand boys might be making their way via ambulance to doctors who are waiting there for them. Donald Trump, President of the United States, has tweeted about this story. We've been waiting for official reaction from both the Canadian government and the U.S. administration. Donald Trump tweeting, the U.S. is working very closely with the government of Thailand to help get all of the children out of the cave and to safety. Very brave and talented people. Now, let's remind everyone that the latest reports indicate that as many as 4 boys might have been rescued from that cave complex. This is happening much more quickly than anyone had anticipated, certainly anyone on the ground we've spoken to. CBC News Network has not independently confirmed that number. We don't know if, in fact, if those boys are out, what condition they're in. They have gone through a tremendous amount of physical and psychological stress in the past 2 weeks. This is a difficult journey out of that cave for anyone. And we know how difficult it is because a former Thai Navy SEAL lost his life in this rescue operation. So it gives you a sense of how challenging it is. So we have been saying throughout the morning, we are cautiously optimistic with these reports coming through. Good news that boys are making their way out, working to confirm the details, don't know what condition they're in, and don't know what's happening with the rest of those boys. Hopefully, things are moving smoothly. Everyone's going to be okay. We'll continue to make calls. We'll continue to track, continue to touch base with folks who are on the ground and, of course, medical officials as well. But we've got Megan Roberts here, who's also been following the story right from the beginning. Megan, it's been 10 hours since the rescue operation started. And you heard me say, you know, some of us want to jump up for joy. This sounds very good, but we don't know enough at this point right now. When we're moving forward, what are we waiting to hear from the officials?
Well, it's interesting that you brought up that point because I'm just seeing right now as we're all monitoring what's going on with people on the ground that press conference we've been waiting for now for hours may be in a half an hour's time. Okay. So we're not sure. Again, these press conferences have been quite fluid in terms of when we actually get that information, which is understandable. There's a lot going on right now, but we may get more information in a half hour's time. We'll certainly keep an eye on that. That's what we're hoping to hear because what we want to know is how these boys are. How many may or may not be out because there's been a lot of conflicting information that we've been seeing from various sources citing other sources. We do know that right now, according to quite a few people, it seems like up to 4 boys may be out, but we want to get official confirmation of that from these boys of what they are. The other interesting thing about all of this right now is the fact that this is happening so much more quickly than we thought that it ever would. We were expecting, in the best of terms, to maybe start seeing some of the boys coming out hopefully around now. And in fact, now the rescue operation we've been seeing over the past hour plus that according to sources that we have not independently verified, these boys have been coming out now for more than an hour. So the speed with which this is happening has been very surprising for a number of people, and that is due to the fact that the weather has been cooperative. They've been able, according to many sources, to get those water levels down so that that last part of the cave that is walkable can be done more quickly. So these are the bits of information that we're hearing. But the biggest question is, how are they doing? How is this all going? And that's information we're going to have to get from officials to make sure that it is the exact right information. Hopefully we'll get that information in a half an hour.
Right. As you rightly mentioned, things keep getting pushed back, and we've seen that happen throughout the week, Megan, because we're told a press conference is going to start at 6, and it doesn't actually, in fact, happen for many, many hours after that. So understandably, it's not a predictable situation at all. And as you said, who could have predicted that everything would move this quickly if, in fact, these reports are true, that at least 4 boys are out. So we'll wait for further confirmation. But in the meantime, let's talk about, we've been discussing the health aspect of this, and we're showing you the hospital scene, and presumably the boys are making their way there now. The psychological toll of being trapped in a cave for 2 weeks without sunlight, without your family, not knowing if anyone is looking for you and if they're looking in the right place. What are experts saying about that?
They're saying that there is potential for PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. We don't know exactly how all of these boys are doing psychologically right now, because of course, really the focus is on their physical health first and foremost, to make sure that they're getting out of these caves safely, seeing those multiple levels of medical professionals. Again, we know that there were ones in the cave. There are ones right outside of the cave. There are ones waiting for them when they move from outside of the cave to the ambulances, and then of course to the hospital. There's so many layers of medical doctors involved right now, which is really important, and that is the primary step. But this has got to be an incredibly traumatic experience for these boys. These are 11 to 16-year-olds. The coach is also young, a young man, only 25 years old. And as you mentioned, they've been trapped in here and they didn't know if anyone was coming for them for a while. And then when they did get that person coming for them, it wasn't like they just went out as soon as they got help. This is such a complex operation, and we don't know how that has affected them psychologically yet. So though the news is really good right now that hopefully these boys are getting out safe and they're receiving medical attention, there's still that next step, that long-term step of mental health, Natasha.
Okay, thank you so much, Megan. Okay, guys, let's talk to you a little bit about who these boys are. Who are the members of this Thai soccer team who've been trapped in the cave for the past 2 weeks? So you're looking now at a picture of Chanin Winbu Rangarung. He is the youngest member of the Wild Boars. That's the name, of course, of the team. He's just 11 years old and plays forward for the club. He's been playing soccer for the past 5 years. Now let's bring up an image of Adul Samon. He is a 14-year-old midfielder with the Wild Boars. He spoke with the rescue divers who initially found the boys in English, letting them know how they were doing. Because you remember, of course, they were saying, we're all here, we're fine, we're okay. And his English skills have won praise from millions in Thailand, where fewer than 30% of the people speak English. Now, Adul also speaks Thai, Mandarin, and Burmese. Let's have a look at Punamas Sain D. Now, I hope Punamas will forgive me if I didn't pronounce his last name correctly, and hopefully maybe one day we'll chat with him. He's a 13-year-old defender. His coaches have raved that he's an ideal defender thanks to his fluid movement and high fitness level. We certainly know that would come in handy in this difficult situation he's been in for the past couple of weeks. They say he plays as well as a 15-year-old. His coaches have also considered playing him as a striker because he is so talented in the air and skilled at redirecting the ball with his head. Here again is a live shot of that Chiang Rai hospital. We're showing you this, we're showing you those pictures of the boys. We're telling you a little bit about them because these are someone's sons, brothers, nephews. They're part of local schools and communities, and of course that soccer team. They've been missing for a long time, and people have been waiting for 2 weeks to hold them, hug them, love them, and we've been covering this story for you. There are reports, at least 4 of the boys are out. Who knows, maybe one of the boys we just told you about is out. We're working to confirm this information. We're hoping that they're healthy and happy, but we don't have official confirmation on that, folks. We're waiting for a press conference to take place. We were told a few hours ago it was meant to start. We'll continue to watch for that, continue to see what officials are saying. I want to remind you what Reuters was saying earlier, because they were quoting Tosatep Buntong. Now, he's the chief of Chiang Rai's health department, very senior official in that province and part of the rescue operations. And he is the person they named, saying that, in fact, the kids were coming out and that they were being treated at a field hospital near the cave. So we do have a name associated with confirming this story, but he spoke to Reuters news agency. We're trying to find out from our sources on the ground what exactly is happening, how soon everyone is going to make their way out, and what condition they are in. So I want to turn once again to Megan, who's been with us throughout the morning covering this story and really throughout the last 2 weeks. Megan, there's more information coming through. What is the latest?
Well, we're waiting again really to hear from officials, and that's kind of some of the latest information we have, just waiting for that press conference to start. Again, they're now saying in about a half hour's time, but we are going to have to wait for that because, as we've mentioned, and it's worth mentioning again, really the priority right now is getting the boys out, and it's great for us to get information, but we'll have to take a back seat sometimes when waiting if these boys' lives are in danger right now as they're trying to complete this dangerous rescue operation. The other thing that's tricky about getting information in a situation like this is that the information, out of necessity, has to come from the cave. We don't know what's going on inside of that cave. Only the rescuers do. Officials, perhaps, don't even know exactly what's going on inside of that cave because they also have to wait for the divers, the medics, the boys themselves to come out physically from that cave to get their information. Then from there, they pass it on to us. We know that this has been taking a lot less time than we thought, which is why we're even getting this information right now with such speed, because we thought that this would be, who knows, days long to get this many boys out. It was difficult to estimate how long it would take because this is such an unprecedented operation. It's been happening at such speed that it's really come as a surprise to many people that we've been talking to, certainly to ourselves as well as we've been observing and reporting on this story. And so that's part of the difficulty in figuring out exactly how many boys may or may not have already been rescued from the cave, what their condition is. But certainly we've been seeing a lot of signs and hearing, although conflicting reports, a lot of reports saying that at the very least there seems to be some of these boys that are rescued. So right now really we're just waiting on those officials, but again they're also waiting for information because they have to wait the same way that we do. They have to wait for people to get out of the cave and to inform them, and then they can inform us. So there's a long line of information before it gets to us.
Hours and hours, and certainly getting information out to us is not the top priority for them. Their top priority is the safety and security of those boys. But of course, Megan is right, we'll continue to watch. In the meantime, Megan, remind us of the challenges of this operation. You know, you kind of hinted at it. You can't get information until those people start coming out, and it takes hours. Well, why is that?
Absolutely. This cave is so dark, it's crowded, you can't see. It's difficult for expert divers, much less for these children, some of which couldn't even swim. That's what makes it so difficult and dangerous. And just a reminder, a former Thai Navy SEAL died doing this. So that certainly really highlights how dangerous this is, even for a trained professional. The boys can't see, they've got to trust the people around them. Some of them can't swim, they had to learn so much so quickly. So that really highlights why this is so dangerous for anyone doing it, much less unexperienced children.
Okay, thank you, Megan. Now, one of the biggest concerns, as we've been talking about all along, is the state of their health after being trapped in those caves for 2 weeks. Let's turn now to CBC medical contributor Dr. Peter Lin, who joins us again on this very topic. Dr. Lin, thanks for joining us again. You know, you and I talked about this yesterday, and so many people commented on that interview saying that they hadn't thought about not only the physical stress of this, but also the psychological stress. And at that stage, the boys hadn't started to come out. When they do start coming out and we do start seeing images of them, what are you going to be looking for?
Yeah, my concern is that there hasn't been an image of the boys. We've seen the ambulance going away. We were all hoping for smiley faces, of course, but of course that's probably not reality. The immediate concern is something called rescuer's collapse. This is where, for some strange reason, for a long time we didn't understand, when the person is actually rescued, they actually collapse, they pass out. And that's probably because their adrenaline is running very high, and that's what's keeping them going. So imagine that long swim, their adrenaline is going high, the adrenaline is squeezing their arteries, keeping their blood pressure up, their heart is pounding because they're in that fight or flight mode. And then when they actually get to safety, all of a sudden those systems start to shut off. And when it shuts off, the blood pressure starts to fall, the heart rate starts to fall, and we actually see some people collapse. So that's why they had all those ambulances, one per child, ready so that they can rush them into the ambulance. They're probably working on them right now in the ambulance, making sure that they're staying warm and that their circulation is still good and that they're not going to go through that rescuer's collapse kind of phenomenon.
We'll watch for that. We've also been looking at the shot of the hospital, Dr. Lin, and I believe now we've got a shot once again of the press conference preparations that are taking place, if we're able to take that shot. So we've seen this type of scene, although someone's covering it up now with their arm. Here you go. So this is the scene we've been looking at a number of times over the course of the day and over the course of the week. You see that poster go up, you see a table go in front, and that is where officials start giving us updates. We were told hours ago that something was going to begin, but of course so much of the story has been difficult to predict, even a press conference by the officials. So we'll wait and see if we get any further details, Dr. Lin, and hopefully we'll get a sense of how the boys are doing if in fact they're out of the cave. Once they get to the hospital, what do you think will be the timeline? How long will it be before they would be healthy enough, fit enough to go back home?
Yeah, so right now in the ambulance, they're getting treatments right now. They're probably trying to start an intravenous on them, but because they're so dehydrated, it might be difficult to start intravenous or even get blood samples. They're going to be processing those blood samples to check on the organs. You know, are the kidneys functioning okay? Have they shut down because they've been dehydrated? Is their liver working because they were breaking down all this protein? They might have started to break down some of those cells as well. There will be ECG monitors on them to make sure their heart rate is okay. And of course, they'll be getting oxygen as well. So everything is monitored during that 50-kilometer trek into the hospital. Once they get into the hospital, there'll be more testing to see the state that they're in. And then what they'll do is they'll slowly rehydrate them and also give them nutrition, but not in the sense of some of the kids wanted, you know, fried chicken. Obviously, they can't eat that. So they'll be giving them sort of liquidy kind of foods that they can process. And then what we'll hopefully hear from the officials is that they've made it to the hospitals, that they're looking well, and that they're stable. So that first couple of minutes when they're coming out is the scariest part. And then the ambulance ride will be kind of scary, but monitored. And then once they get to the hospital, there are so many resources there that I think then we would sort of breathe a sigh of relief. But even then, we want to make sure that they're eating and fully back to normal, and that will take days before we get that really good news that says that they're out of the woods.
Dr. Lin, can you help us understand that? Why is it so difficult to digest food again?
Yeah, so basically, in order to digest food, you have to mix lots of things in there. So you need water, which they're dehydrated, so therefore they didn't have so much water. And second thing is that we need all your organs to work. Your pancreas has to make, you know, these enzymes to help you digest food. Now, remember, those enzymes are really made from proteins, and those proteins is coming from the proteins that you eat. And so they didn't have a lot of protein for 10 days. And in fact, they were breaking down their own muscles to survive. So that's why all their systems may not be working well. So that's why everything we give them would be pre-digested, I guess, if you will. I mean, for a lack of a better term, kind of like baby food, because that way they can absorb all the nutrients without working very hard at doing so. And so that's the baby steps in the beginning stages. And then hopefully that will move quickly and then they can come back to speed. Because they're kids, they'll bounce back much more quickly, I hope, than sort of large grown adults. However, having said that, they have less muscle and less everything to sort of digest. So therefore, they were using up a lot more of their resources.
You know, yesterday when you and I were speaking, you brought up PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and I had not thought of that. I certainly hadn't read about it in connection with this particular story until you mentioned it. What makes you think that that could be a possibility for some of the boys?
Yeah, so one of the things I did, I started looking backwards at the Chilean miners, for example, and what happened to them. And all of them went through this sort of post-traumatic stress disorder. And it's very simple. It's a system that's trying to help you stay out of danger. So therefore, your brain kind of makes a memory circuit that this was a dangerous situation. It was dark, it was cramped, it was cold. And so your brain says, anytime I get into that situation, I better panic and get out of that situation. So it's really a mechanism to not get into the same situation and have the same problems. But unfortunately, the brain will misinterpret something. So let's say they go into an elevator shaft. All of a sudden, that's a closed environment. They're going to panic. Let's say it's dark. All of a sudden, they're going to panic. Maybe they'll have nightmares as well as their brain is going through processing all this intense information. And so that's what the Chilean miners went through. And I expect, and unfortunately, I have to expect this in the kids as well. And so therefore, if they're prepared for it, by managing it right now, in other words, keeping the kids together, having lots of people around them, they said that the humor was very important, hope was very important for the miners as well, then maybe we won't have the same problems that the miners had. Because when they checked back with the miners 5 years later, they had a lot of psychological problems. So the great escape was
Dr. Lin,
fantastic.
I'm so sorry I have to interrupt you. We are going to go to Chiang Rai, Thailand, where a press conference with officials is now beginning. It will presumably be in Thai, but we will do our best to catch some English. Let's listen in.
ครับก็กราบเรียนพ่อแม่พี่น้องสื่อมวลชนทุกท่านนะครับแล้วก็พ่อแม่พี่น้องทางบ้านที่ให้กำลังใจพวกเรามาตลอดนะครับ16วันแห่งการรอคอยนะครับวันนี้เราเห็นหน้าหมูป่าแล้ว
So if you're just joining us, welcome back to CBC News Network. Wow, we just heard people clapping, so they're presumably clapping for good news. You are looking at the governor of Chiang Rai, who is also the head of the rescue operation. The reason why I'm speaking over him, because trust me, I don't want to, is because he's speaking in Thai, and at this stage, we do not have translation. We are waiting for any sort of confirmation about how the rescue operation is going, how many children, if any, have come out. We've seen multiple reports that several boys have come out now, and how they're doing, their health conditions. So we're listening in, even though it's in Thai, because oftentimes our governor has responded to questions in English, because we know the international community is watching this story closely. Here's where we are, folks. You'll remember 2 weeks ago, a group of 12 boys and their soccer coach, 25-year-old coach, went for a walk after a soccer practice. They went into this cave complex. We understand this is an area that the boys had explored in the past, and they went in and got lost. And for 10 days, we didn't know where they were, and many didn't know if they were alive until Monday, when that miraculous discovery was made by a British rescue diver who found them all together, huddled together in the darkness of the cave complex, 4 kilometers into that entrance. Altogether, he asked them, how many of you? 13. Brilliant. That was a moment of jubilation felt around the world. But then the difficult thing began of how do you get these boys out? They hadn't eaten, they hadn't had clean water, they were physically weak, they were thin to begin with, and many of them cannot swim. So we began with diving instructions and swimming instructions, and we are now at the point where the rescue operation began last night. I just want to listen in some more. Again, this is in Thai, this is the governor of Chiang Rai, potentially some information coming to us.
การพาน้องออกมาผมเชื่อว่าหลายๆท่านก็คงจะเห็นตามทีวีแล้วนะครับแล้วก็เอาน้องเขากอดไว้ข้างล่างนะครับแล้วก็ออกมานะครับตามสภาพที่ใส่หน้ากากนะครับแล้วก็หน้ากากนี่จะกันน้ำเข้ามีระบบเซฟตี้ทั้งปวงแล้วก็มีการหายใจโดยหายใจแบบปกติได้
Okay, a reminder again, folks, that we are listening in on a live press conference happening in Chiang Rai, Thailand, where the rescue operation is currently underway. We've received multiple reports that, in fact, as many as 4 boys have been rescued from the cave complex. CBC News Network does not have independent confirmation on this, but we're hoping that some English information comes through, which is why we're keeping one ear and eye on this and one ear and eye on our guests in our studio. So let's turn now to Megan. Megan, what is the latest that you have seen coming through?
Well, Natasha, I'm just looking at some of the wires that we've been talking about before, and I'm just going to read them for you because it appears that we are getting some information from this press conference. So one says the head of the rescue operation, who you're looking at there, said that 4 children who have exited the Thai cave have been delivered safely to hospital. So it seems right now, based on our information, that the head of the rescue operation, this man, is saying that 4 children have been delivered to the hospital. So it looks like maybe 4 boys are out, getting confirmation from the governor, and of course we'll have to work to get it translated from Thai as well. And more information coming from this right now, again coming across our wires, that he is saying 90 divers, 50 foreign and 40 Thai divers have been involved in this operation to remove the boys from the cave. 90 divers, just the divers, the people going in to help them, 50 foreign and 40 Thai. Again, we're hearing from our wires here that 4 have been safely delivered, 4 boys safely delivered to hospital. That's coming from the head of the rescue operation, who you're looking at right there. And he's speaking in Thai, but we'll keep an eye on him. That's the latest information that we're getting. We've been waiting for this press conference for hours now. As you noted, we could hear cheers when he was talking. So presumably there is some good news, which is what we're seeing. And then I just have another wire here saying that the first boy exited the cave at 1740 local time. So we're getting some more details in from all of this, Natasha, as it's starting to be translated from Thai for us.
Okay, that's excellent. Thank you, Megan. Yes, those wires coming in. Just a reminder, if you're joining us, we are listening in to a press conference taking place in Thai, where the governor of Chiang Rai is offering an update. As Megan rightly noted, at the very beginning of the press conference, he said something in Thai and people began clapping. So we believe that that would be good news. He is now reportedly confirming that 4 of the boys have been rescued from the cave. So let's listen in for just a few more seconds to see if there's any English.
ไม่ว่าจะทีมส่งกลับรถทุกคันฮอทุกลำนะครับที่เป็นคนที่คอนโทรลตรงนั้นทั้งหมดจะมานั่งพูดคุยกันว่าเราปฏิบัติวันนี้เป็นอย่างไรผลต้องประเมินอะไรบ้างต้องปรับแก้ไขตรงไหนไหมการปิดการจราจรตรงไหนต้องปรับแก้ไหม
folks, I wish I had studied Thai because I sure wish I could help you out to understand what he's saying. I'm hoping it's good news, but let's turn to Robert Shannon, who is a professional diver and owns Oakville Divers, which is just outside of Toronto. What are you hoping to hear, Robert, other than English?
I'm hoping to hear good news that everybody's out of that cave and everybody's safe, and that's including the international rescuers and the Thai Navy SEALs.
What do you make of this information that 4 boys have been rescued? That's what we understand is being said by the governor right now. We're hoping that he'll say it in English as well. But does that mean to you that potentially all 13 are getting out today?
It would look that way. I'm hoping for the best. Until they're all out, we can't say anything. It's a very dangerous situation for these young men right now. Luckily, they've got a few out, and we're just waiting, hoping that all of them come out and successfully. Very dangerous time for the people that are left in the cave right now.
We're continuing to listen in to this press conference in Chiang Rai, Thailand. This is the governor. He's really been the face of this operation. We've been watching him. We've been listening to him throughout the week after the boys were discovered alive in that cave complex on Monday. And then the difficult work began, and he had to spearhead it. How exactly do you get them out? So he's giving an update now. We know that last night the governor said it's too late. We can't wait any longer. We have to go in. We have to start moving. And so late last night, Thai time, we know that the rescue operator started moving. And as Megan mentioned just a few moments ago, we now have a better sense of the numbers. According to the head of the rescue operation, our governor, 90 divers involved in the rescue operation to get 13 individuals out. 50 of the divers foreign, 40 of them Thai, all of them hoping for the best possible outcome. So remind us, Robert, if you would, of some of the challenges as we continue to listen in on the press conference.
Well, the dangers in a cave, in that cave right now, is there's no visibility, there's current, the water's cold, and these young Thai gentlemen have no swimming experience, no scuba experience other than this, and a short amount of training they've had in that cave. So as they move out with the rescue divers, they're going to be quite nervous. They're going to need to be reassured that they're safe as they dive.
Sorry, Robert. I'm just getting the sense that he's being asked questions. And this is where we've been getting any of our English possibilities. So let's listen in, folks. Be patient with us. If it's in Thai, forgive us. But if it's in English, we might get some information. We're going to stay on this shot for a few moments because it looks like he's not taking questions at that table, but you can see the horde of reporters around him, many of them from around the world. If you're just joining us, this is the scene right now in Chiang Rai, where the governor has just given an update. He gave it exclusively in Thai, which is unfortunate because from time to time he has spoken in English, and we were hoping for more information. You can see the throngs of reporters around him trying to get further details. All we can tell you at this point is that there are reports that have seemingly been confirmed by the governor of the province that in fact 4 boys at least have been rescued from the cave complex. We know that there are medical officials waiting for them right outside the cave. We know that there's a field hospital, and we also know that Chiang Rai Hospital is awaiting all 13 boys and coach. Once they're out, they're going there. That's where they're going to get treatment. So potentially, there might be further English information coming through, so we'll keep one eye on this scene. We're also watching what's happening at the hospital to see what further developments and information might come from there. And I interrupted Robert as he was speaking only because, Robert, we were hoping that potentially some questions would be posed in English. So it seems good because people clapped. So where would you be focusing your attention moving forward? What are you looking for?
Well, right now I'm concerned for the other young gentlemen that are still trapped in that cave. It's still a very, very serious and dangerous situation for them and all the people that are involved in this rescue. They seem to be doing a great job. The international team is fantastic. The Brits, I think, are leading the way. They seem to be doing everything correctly, very safe so far. Fantastic news that they got these guys out so far. Waiting for the rest of them. This situation, it has to be one of the worst situations that these guys could be in. No visibility, cold, being trapped in a cave, obviously, learning scuba and trying to move out in those difficult situations. They have to dive down, scuba, get through tight spots, come out, climb over rocks, get back in the water again, and continue on until they're finally out. And it seems like it's taking hours for them to do that little journey underwater.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, it is 9 o'clock at night in Chiang Rai, and so this operation's been going on since 10 o'clock in the morning, Thailand time. So we are coming up on almost 12 hours of this operation, and if 4 boys are already out, this is going much faster than the officials had initially indicated it would take. This is all good news. And in fact, the latest wire coming in from the Associated Press quotes the official who is heading up the rescue operations, that of course is the governor of Chiang Rai, saying that the rescue operations are going better than expected. This is exactly the news everyone wanted to hear, not least of which, of course, the very concerned parents who've been waiting for good news for 2 weeks to get their sons back home. So the scene you're looking at now is a press conference that just wrapped up with the governor and with another official. They spoke exclusively in Thai, but it was short and people clapped right at the beginning, which indicates good news to us. The English information coming in from Reuters and Associated Press seems to back that up, that in fact things are going well. Seems to have confirmation that 4 boys are out, and brand new information coming in through Reuters. CBC News Network has not independently confirmed, but that 4 boys have arrived at the hospital in Chiang Rai from the cave. So we don't know what condition they're in, and as Robert has mentioned, we don't know the condition of the other individuals who may potentially still be trapped in those caves. We're waiting for everyone to get out. 13 went in. We believe now 4 have come out. What happened to the rest of them? Where are they? We'll continue to watch. We'll continue to see what happens. This has been a treacherous effort for all of the rescue operators. Good morning once again, everyone. You're watching CBC News Network with breaking, ongoing coverage of the scene in Thailand where that rescue operation is well underway. My name is Natasha Fatah. Rescued from the depths of a flooded Thai cave, the first members of the boys' soccer team have emerged and are now in a nearby hospital. The rescue operation to reach the remaining 9 is still underway. We have the latest on this hour's breaking news. Now, this is a look at the scene outside of the press conference that just took place in Chiang Rai. It's about to become a focal point for the rescue mission. The hospital is located more than 50 kilometers from the cave's entrance. Now, as you know, folks, the story is very fluid, unpredictable, but we're doing our best to confirm details, and several of the facts at this point remain unconfirmed. But as Thai officials have yet to confirm everything, we have now just heard, we understand from the governor, that in fact 4 boys have been rescued from that cave and they're making their way to the hospital. Now, we've seen the speeding ambulances go by, but we have not seen any images of the boys, and that might be intentional because we don't know what condition they are in. We're trying to firm up all of these details for you, but let's begin with what we know at this point. 11 hours ago, we began this rescue operation. Officials have now confirmed in the last few minutes that 4 boys have been extracted from that cave. That leaves a number of other boys and the coach still inside the cave. So authorities have also revealed that 90 divers are involved in this rescue mission. 50 of them are foreign, the rest are Thai. CNN's Nikhil Kumar is in Chiang Rai with more on the unfolding drama of this rescue.
weren't expecting such progress so soon. We were told that the rescue operation would proceed with the divers going in, bringing the boys from the area that they've been taking shelter in one by one, bringing them to an area called Cave 3, and over there is a staging post for the rescue operation, and from there, one by one, they'd be taken out to a hospital about 58 kilometers, 36 miles from the cave complex. We don't know yet about the condition that these boys are in. We don't yet know about the status of the boys who remain inside the cave complex. But this is very, very promising news this evening in Thailand.
We are not sure of their condition. We understand, at least from Reuters, that in fact they're getting medical treatment. They might in fact be transported to that Chiang Rai hospital as we speak. Do you have a sense at this point, Nikhil, how long before they're all out?
We don't know for sure, but one of the things that has really struck everybody this evening is the rapid progress, as I said, of this operation. You'll recall that a few days ago when we were talking about the teams going inside this cave and going to where the boys were and coming back out, we were estimating from officials, from people who knew about the operations here, that it was about an 11-hour round trip. Now, given that this operation began this morning, 10 a.m. local time, it's just after 8 p.m. local time over here, clearly conditions are better. Conditions are clearly better and good enough that now 4 have been brought out. So it seems like that the let-up in the rain, which is something that the authorities were counting on, has really helped. And this is also why they went in today. The concern was, the governor this morning said, today is D-Day. By that he meant that the conditions were good, of course not ideal, but so much better than they have been before, and so much better than they're expected to be in coming days. In coming days, the monsoon returns. We're expecting heavy rain in this area. And once heavy rain hits this area again, there's a very, very high risk of flooding in this cave complex. Were that to happen, it would put the entire operation in jeopardy. That's why they went in today. Clearly, from what we've heard so far, the right decision. Natasha?
Nikhil, can you give me a sense of the mood? What are people saying? How are they feeling now that boys are making their way out of the cave?
People, Natasha, are waiting anxiously for more news, for more detail. They're, of course, pleased with what they've heard so far, but as I said, we don't know much. This is a very complicated rescue operation. There were at least 13 international divers who went in this morning, according to the governor. There were 4 Thai divers who went in alongside. It's a very complicated operation. Over the last few weeks, more than 2 weeks that these boys have been stranded in this cave complex, it's become a truly international rescue operation with teams from Thailand, the US, the UK, and beyond. So it's a very complicated operation, which is why, as promising as this news is, we're still waiting to hear more. Everyone here is anxiously waiting to hear more about these boys and about the boys that remain inside this cave complex. Natasha?
Nikhil, I could lose you at any point, but I'm going to keep pushing, because tell us about what happens to the boys once they are out. What happens at the hospital?
So they're going to go through medical checkups, Natasha. The hospital, as I said, is 58 kilometers, about 36 miles from the cave site. They'll be taken there. There'll be medical checkups. We don't know when we will actually first get to see them. We don't know what their condition is. They're going to go first to doctors. Medical teams had already gone in to the cave complex in recent days, and it was these medical teams that made the assessment that they were fit enough to be brought out, to be taken through this rescue operation, because it's not an easy rescue operation. It's a very long, complicated, treacherous path. The cave complex itself is about 10 kilometers long, so it wasn't an easy operation. It isn't an easy operation, I should say, rather, and medics were there to assess, to make sure that they could go through it. And Natasha?
You're there, Nikhil. How are you feeling?
This is great news, Natasha. I mean, as I said, we don't know that much, but what we do know is unexpected, really. We weren't expecting to hear this. We've been out here reporting. CNN has been on the scene all these days and weeks that these boys have been missing. And so we've all been waiting to find out, first, will they be found? When they were found, to find out, well, when will they be taken out of the cave complex? Days went by. There was all kinds of speculation about how long it might take for the rescue teams to bring them out. Were the conditions good enough? Were they not good enough? It's raining. Is it going to rain more? If it rains more, will there be more flooding? Could that jeopardize the entire operation? So it's been ups and downs for everybody over here. So hearing this news earlier than we expected is extraordinary. But now we're waiting to find out more. We want to know more about the condition of the boys. We want to know more about the boys in there. But this is very, very promising news, Natasha. No doubt about that.
CNN reporter Nikhil Kumar in Chiang Rai, Thailand. So I just want to remind folks about the news that's been breaking just moments ago. The governor of the province of Chiang Rai, Thailand, confirmed at a press conference in Thai that in fact 4 of the boys have been rescued. We are getting a few more details as we speak that it was the healthiest set of boys that were brought out first, and we had imagined that would be the case after speaking with Dr. Peter Lin yesterday, who said he was more concerned about the ones that looked a little bit weak in some of the video we've seen. But the governor indicating that the 4 healthiest have been brought out first. We understand they're going to be taken to the Chiang Rai hospital where they will get treatment and assessment. We're also hearing that the next phase of the operation to start in 10 to 20 hours. Now, like everything in this story, this opens up a whole nother set of questions, because if the next phase is going to start in 10 to 20 hours, we don't know specifically what that means. Does that mean we have to wait for another 10 to 20 hours for the next set of boys? CBC News Network is trying to get confirmation on a number of different details, including that for you. So we'll continue to watch that. And one of the people who's been trying to get that confirmation for you is Megan Roberts from our breaking news desk, who's been watching this story closely. Megan, we just got an update, as I mentioned, from the governor. What stood out for you?
Well, one of the things that stood out, Natasha, is the fact that they used so many resources to do this that they now need to wait, as you mentioned, to even start the next rescue mission. They need to wait another 10 to 20 hours. And we're seeing the reason that they need to wait that amount of time is because they need more oxygen. They used up what they had to get these 4 boys out. So now they need to do another preparation to make sure that they can get more of these boys out, hopefully safely. So they're saying that next operation will be in another 10 to 20 hours so that they can up their oxygen supply to make sure that they have enough to get everyone, not only the boys, of course, the divers, the rescuers as well, are putting themselves in danger. We're also learning during that press conference some more details, kind of confirming what we thought was going to happen, that the boys were wearing full face masks. We're also learning the divers were helping to carry some of these boys through the passage, through some of these passages in the cave. And of course, they've traveled a long way. We're reading right now that they traveled about 1 kilometer underwater. So these are young boys, no experience diving. Some of them didn't know how to swim. Presumably they learned before this mission in a very quick crash course. And they had to travel 1 kilometer underwater in order to get to that cave entrance. So these are some of the small details that we know now. Really, the next thing is waiting. We're going to wait to have to see how the boys are all doing. We know they've been taken to hospital. Certainly the governor is saying that they're in good condition, but we'll be awaiting more about how these 4 boys that have been rescued are doing. And then also we'll be looking forward to the next rescue operation, because there are still boys in that cave and there's still the coach in that cave. There's a lot more work to be done, Natasha.
Megan, as you've been speaking with us, we've been showing images from Thailand. What you're seeing now are the latest images of those ambulances making their way to the Chiang Rai hospital. We understand that possibly the boys are inside those ambulances, 1 per ambulance. So, of course, clearing the road so that they can get to the hospital as quickly as possible, because we did receive that confirmation from the governor that 4 of the boys are out. We were also showing a scene of that mountainous terrain that the ambulances have to drive in and out of, where all of the rescue operations are taking place, because remember, the cave is below a mountain range. On the other side of the mountain is the country of Myanmar. This is in a remote part of the country. It is difficult and challenging even for experienced people who know this area, experienced divers, and here you've got a group of boys stuck in there. But I have to say, by all accounts, everyone is pretty impressed, including the governor himself, with the speed of the rescue. What do we know about how it is progressing?
Well, certainly, I mean, the speed is what we've been talking about a little bit over the past hour, hour and a half. And the reason is because we were expecting to get some notification, some news about these boys starting very recently, actually. The fact that this has been going on now for a few hours, that we've been hearing and now confirmed that some boys have been rescued, we didn't expect to get this news so quickly. So that tells us that the conditions for this rescue seem to be good, that we were hearing some unconfirmed reports that maybe water levels had gone down in areas of the cave, especially areas closer to the entrance. That's a possibility. So certainly the governor said this couldn't have gone better. They couldn't have imagined anything better. Really, though, now we've got to look forward because they're going to need that 10 to 20 hours before they attempt the next rescue. And there's always that threat of monsoon rains. We are in that season in Thailand. So they've got to do this as quickly but as safely as possible, because if rains hit, that opens up a whole new set of dangers in something that's already incredibly dangerous, Natasha.
Okay, thank you, Megan. Now, joining us once again on set is Robert Shannon. He is a professional diver. Robert, thank you for coming back to talk more about the story as it continues to develop. I want to talk to you about the challenges of rescuing someone from a cave like this underwater when they're not particularly strong or healthy.
Well, what do you have to consider when dealing with this situation is the safety of our people that are being rescued, the young gentlemen. Using this full face mask was a fantastic idea. We get them to breathe off of it. They don't have to worry about having a regulator and a mask. I would get them to hold on to it. So that would give them something to do to keep busy as we carried them out. I'm sure that the rescue divers are leading them out, they're carrying them, getting them out safely, leading them up and down through the passages in that dark, dark water with the idea of how to make sure they are reassured and feeling safe as they go out, not getting banged up on the cave, and dealing with all the problems, low visibility, probably cold temperature, current, all those things in the water.
How do you think the rescue operators, we now know it's 90 divers involved in this, what do you think they're doing to help the boys feel safe, feel secure, and confident enough to get out?
Well, some of these underwater full face masks have communication. So they could be talking to them as they go through. If they don't, generally what we would like to do is always put a hand on a person. I like to squeeze their arm or tap their shoulder, hold them all the time so they know you're there. Give them a little shared feeling that you're there for them, you're there to help them and rescue them. And that reassures people, and they're not alone in that cave.
So we were hoping for some English from our governor as he was speaking just a few moments ago. You and I were watching that together. He did not speak in English, but we have confirmation from folks who do that he in fact confirmed 4 boys are out. So what does that lead you to believe about the other 9 that are still in there?
Well, as they said, they brought out the strongest guys first, so that it's still a very, very dangerous situation for the young gentlemen that are left in the cave to get them out, get them back to their families and rescue them. I still think it's a very, very serious situation all around. All those considerations that you have to deal with and being in water in an overhead environment such as a cave where you can't go up and breathe right away. It's a very, very dangerous situation for these people. Long ways to go. Until they're all out, we can't be sure.
Okay. Robert Shannon, thank you again. You're a professional diver and owner of Oakville Divers. He was joining us in studio in Toronto. So let's once again take a look at Chiang Rai. This is outside the hospital. Now, lots of moving parts in this story. The latest we've heard from the governor in Thai is that 4 boys have been rescued from the cave. We've been told that in fact it was the 4 strongest, healthiest boys who made their way out first. We had anticipated that would likely be the course of action because, of course, there's differences in age, there's differences in capabilities, and there's differences in confidence. So they wanted to start off with the strongest set of boys to see what would be the challenges of the operation moving forward. 4 are out, we understand. Ambulances taking them to the Chiang Rai hospital where they will be treated, eventually reunited with their parents who've been waiting for them. We are working the phones. We are trying to get voices on the ground. We've got our folks in the studio and in the control room bringing you the very latest. Stay with CBC News Network for ongoing coverage.
การรอคอยนะครับวันนี้เราเห็นหน้าหมูป่าแล้วนะครับอย่างที่กราบเรียนพวกเรา
Moments ago, the governor of Chiang Rai made an announcement. Let's take a
วัน
listen.
นี้เป็นวันที่สมบูรณ์ที่สุดนะครับที่เราภาษาอังกฤษบอกว่า the best situation นะครับสถานการณ์ที่ดีที่สุดที่ผมบอกว่าเรื่องสภาพอากาศเรื่องสภาพร่างกายของเด็กนะครับแล้วก็เรื่อง
So my understanding is, folks, that was the one bit of English from that press conference. This is the best possible situation, but we'll take it because what we now know, confirmed by the governor of Chiang Rai, is that 4 of the boys who went into that cave 2 weeks ago along with their coach are now out and they're being treated. They're being taken to the Chiang Rai hospital. So that's what we got just moments ago. We brought it to you live. This is the scene outside the Chiang Rai hospital as we wait for further information to come. We know the 4 strongest, healthiest boys were the first ones to be brought out. We still know that there are 8 boys still somewhere in that cave along with their coach. And we understand based on the latest wires coming out from Thailand, from the rescue officials, that in fact, the next set of operations could take up to 10 to 20 hours. That is a long time to wait, but we're trying to figure out what that means, if operations are still ongoing in that time, or in fact they're going to have to wait and see. But in the meantime, things are moving forward positively for those 4 boys, and he had said in English this is the best possible situation. So this is good news coming from Chiang Rai, but we are cautiously optimistic as we wait for further information. How are those boys doing, and what about the ones who are still stuck in that cave? This has, of course, sparked a massive mobilization of help from countries around the world. We've been watching that people everywhere are so deeply invested in this story and have wanted to help in some capacity. So CBC's Dominic Violates joins us from London with more on the international effort. What have you seen, Dominic?
Yeah, a large international team on the ground in Thailand, Natasha. Indeed, the latest figures we have from the authorities there is that 90 divers are involved in the rescue operation. 50 are foreign, the remaining 40 Thai. We don't know exactly the breakdown of the nationalities that are involved, but we know that Australia, for example, has sent 6 specialists to the scene, all of whom have search and rescue and cave diving skills. The United States, meanwhile, has sent a team of 17 Air Force rescue specialists from the Japanese island of Okinawa, where they are based. China has sent a 6-man rescue team and some pretty sophisticated rescue equipment as well, including, it's being reported, an underwater robot and a 3D imager. But certainly other nations are involved as well. Experts from Japan, from Myanmar and Laos are all at the scene. We also know that Finnish and Belgian nationals are helping out with this. And then, of course, there is that 3-man team from Britain who, along with Thai Navy SEAL divers, initially found the 12 boys and their coach, Natasha.
Dominic, you know I'm going to ask you about those British divers and their incredible ingenuity, their bravery, their skill. They're the ones that found the boys initially. Of course, the Thai Navy has been spearheading this whole operation, but it was, in fact, British divers who found the boys on Monday. Talk to us about them.
Yeah, that's right. And they were sent to Thailand by the British Cave Rescue Council at the request of the Thai authorities. We have a picture, actually, of the team, which we can show you now. On the left of this picture, which you can see there, is Richard Stanton. He's a leading cave diver who was involved in the rescue of 6 British soldiers who were trapped for 8 days in a flooded cave in Mexico back in 2004. Next up in the middle and wearing the headlamp is Charles Harper. Now, he has since left Thailand because he had a medical appointment back here in the UK, but he certainly received a warm farewell from the authorities at the airport. He was actually given a certificate of appreciation by a senior Thai minister just before he boarded his plane. Finally, and on the far right of the picture, we have John Valanthan. Now, he got into diving at university, but he is also a marathon runner and a keen climber, having conquered El Capitan in America's Yosemite Park. Incidentally, both he and Richard Stanton on the far left of the picture have dived together before. In 2012, both men were honoured by the UK's Royal Humane Society for their part in the attempted rescue of a diver who went missing in France. Natasha.
Okay, thank you. Dominic Violates in London. Once again, everyone, you are looking at a scene in Chiang Rai, Thailand. This is outside the hospital. You can see it is nightfall, but it is a good night in Thailand because 4 of the boys have been rescued from that cave complex. Now, just moments ago, information coming in from the Guardian newspaper. I want to share this with you. And before I do, A reminder, CBC News has not independently confirmed this information, but what we understand is that the rescue operation has concluded for the night. It's 10:24 Eastern, which means it is 9:24 p.m. in northern Thailand. So they are saying it has concluded for the night and will resume in 10 to 20 hours because we've used all of the oxygen. That's according to the chief of operations for the rescue. So you'll remember just a few moments ago, we were trying to get clarity on what it means that things will take 10 to 20 hours. Now I think we're getting a better sense of it directly from the operation chief. It's concluded for the night. Rescue operations begin again, 10 to 20 hours. We didn't know if we were going to see all 13 boys and the coach come out today. It looks like that is not going to happen. But again, folks, nothing in this story has been predictable, so we won't pretend to know exactly what's going on. We will just tell you information as it comes in, and that is the latest coming in from someone translating what the chief and the governor had to say, that in fact they're concluding for the night. But they are certainly concluding on a very good note because 4 boys are out and heading to the hospital. And on that point, let's talk about the health and the concerns around health for those boys, the ones who are out, the ones who are still in, the divers who have to go in and get them, all of the stress of this. Let's turn now to CBC medical contributor Dr. Peter Lin, who joins us once again on that point. Dr. Lin, thanks for being flexible. We've been back and forth with you this morning. So 4 boys out, 9, including the coach, still in there. Does that worry you? They're going to stay in there for seemingly possibly another full day.
Yeah, my concern is that they're talking about oxygen, which means that the operation used up more oxygen than they had expected. And that's probably because physically they had to get the boys in. So as they work harder, you actually consume more oxygen. So the fact that they need to pause and then reload oxygen means that this is a little more strenuous than they had expected. Good news with the 4 kids coming out. Bad news in the sense that I haven't seen a picture, so we would love to see a picture of their face. But we did see ambulances rushing away, and I did see an unconfirmed picture of a helicopter, a police helicopter, that might have taken some of the boys as well, which means that maybe some of them are a little bit more dehydrated or a little sicker than the others, and that's why they made different trips. And the concern immediately is this thing called rescue collapse, where your adrenaline is pumping, you're basically running on adrenaline, that's keeping your heart pumping, your blood pressure's high, and then once you see safety, everything sort of falls apart and sort of says, I'm in safe arms, blood pressure comes down, heart rate really drops, and then they can actually collapse. So that's the immediate concern as the kids are coming out. And then the long-term concern is, of course, in the ambulance ride, which is about 50 kilometers that they have to go to make sure that everything is stable and monitored as they're moving forward in that ambulance ride.
Let's talk about what they've already been through and the 9 are still dealing with: living in darkness, poor air quality, lack of proper nutrition. What are the possible effects that this will have on their bodies?
Yeah, so immediately what's happening is that they're burning up their own bodies. So thankfully there's some nutrition going in, but you can imagine they're not getting all the protein and everything that they require, so therefore they're not burning it as fast. Initially, our bodies will burn whatever resources that we have. So in our liver, we have glycogen. We burn that all off in a couple of hours. And then we start trying to burn fat. And in these kids, they didn't have a whole lot of fat. And then they started to burn muscle in order to survive. So therefore, their muscles were being used up as well. Now, once we started, refueling them again, at least that burn rate is slower. It is cold in there. And so therefore, they need to produce more heat in order to keep themselves warm. And now they have blankets. So we're hoping that they're going to get better. The other concern that we have is a couple of the kids weren't moving as much on the very first video that they had sent out. So in other words, their health condition may not be all the same. And that's why they took the 4 strongest sort of boys to do this first run. And I think right now is during this time of 10 or 20 hours where they'll pause, they're reloading on oxygen, but they're also rethinking how can we make that trick a little easier, a little less stressful for the remaining 9 that are in the cave.
Dr. Lin, is it, so you're suggesting possibly the 10 to 20 hour break could be a time to readjust the plan. Would you recommend that? I mean, this seems to have worked.
Yes, I think the readjustment will be, is there certain areas that they have to take a pause? What happened with these 4 boys? Because they're the strongest swimmers. Did they get cramped up? Did they have to stop anywhere? So those are the things that they're going to do. So I don't want anybody to think that, well, everybody's just going to, sit there and do nothing for the next 10 or 20 hours. They're rethinking, is there any way that they can make it safer? Is there any way that they can make that trek shorter for the boys? especially seeing how we're now heading towards the kids that may not be the strongest or may not be in the best condition. And so they're rethinking that. And of course, the storm is coming, so they're racing against that as well. So during this time where they're looking for new oxygen tanks and things like that, they're also thinking about ways to minimize the risk to the ones that may not be so strong coming in the next batch.
Dr. Lin, I want to bring you up to date on a couple of things. One is that we're waiting on a CNN reporter, and I've just been told the CNN reporter is ready. So I'm going to interrupt our conversation. We'll certainly get back to you and your expertise in a moment. But now let's shift gears and let's get to the ground where the scene is unfolding in Chiang Rai with a reporter we have spoken to a few times already this morning who's been bringing us great coverage, Nikhil Kumar. Nikhil, we just got this update from officials. It was all in Thai, but the few words that we heard in English seemed pretty good. The governor said this is the best possible outcome. What are you hearing?
So exactly right, Natasha. 4 boys. He confirmed that 4 boys out of the group of 13, 12 boys, the soccer coach who's 25, 4 are out. Is what we know. The governor has now confirmed this. He also confirmed that the operations, the rescue operations that began earlier today that brought these 4 out, have ended for the moment. They've paused. And the reason for this is because the divers ran out of oxygen. They're going to need about 10 to 20 hours to restart the operations to bring out the rest. A meeting, we understand, is taking place today, just now, in fact, to work out the next stages of the operation to bring out the other boys who remain inside the caves. We don't know much about the health of the boys who've come out, except we know from police outside the hospital where they've been taken that they're doing okay. That's all we know. Fairly limited information, but it is positive information. So that's what we know. 4 are out, their health apparently okay. The others will not be rescued immediately as the resources are once again lined up. Oxygen is sort of replenished and so on. And then the teams will go back in and bring the other boys out. One other thing, which is slightly broader, which we learned during this press conference that the governor held just a few hours ago, is that the whole operation happened far, far faster. You know, the progress was made in a way that we just did not expect. The first boy, we now understand, came out at 5:40 p.m. local time. Now, just to put that in some context, at about 10 a.m. this morning, the governor said that the rescue teams had gone in, that not until 9 p.m. in the evening would we start to hear about the evacuations, and that at that point they'd actually be quite slow. Now we understand that about 5:40 is when the first boy came out, and then the others came out in quick succession. By just before 8 p.m. local time, the 4 were out and were being moved to this hospital, which is about 58 kilometers from the cave site, about 37 miles. So that's what we know, Natasha. Promising news. But a lot of boys remain inside, and so the focus now is going to be on looking after the ones who have come out and getting back in, getting the rescuers back in to get those other boys out of this cave complex. Natasha?
Nikhil, on that point, we have a Reuters witness being quoted saying that, in fact, the 4 boys have made their way. They're at the hospital now as we speak, because he said it's more than 50 kilometers to get from the cave to the hospital. If this person is to be believed that, in fact, the 4 boys have made their way there. I want to get back to that issue of the 10 to 20 hour time gap now, because the oxygen levels were running out, and so they have to replenish. But one of our guests, who's a physician who's been watching this story closely, indicated that it might be a time to reassess the plan. Have you been hearing anything about that? Is there any glitch in the process that they've had success with so far, but they may need to readjust for some of the weaker, younger boys?
On the ground, Natasha, there's been no such indication at all. What they've said is that the operation, as it began this morning, has done quite well. They got the 4 boys out. You're quite right. Ambulances have been arriving at the hospital, which is just nearby to where I'm standing. And that it was because the oxygen ran out. 90 rescuers were involved in this operation to bring these boys out, that they're going to have to pause for now, get their resources back in order, and then go back in again. This is a very complicated operation. You know, throughout there has been this concern about the very treacherous journey from where the boys were taking shelter inside the cave complex to all the way out. Parts are flooded, the water is muddy, visibility is quite low. It's been quite hard, in fact, for experienced divers who've gone in. And so there was always this concern about bringing these boys out. From what we know, the boys, the 4 boys who did come out, all had full face masks on, diving masks on them, and were carried out by the rescue teams that had gone in. So there's no indication of glitch. Instead, what they've told us that, look, the oxygen ran out, so the operation has to pause for now. And I should stress that when we first heard about the beginning of the rescue operation earlier this morning, at that point, we didn't expect such rapid progress to be made. You know, late this evening, when I'm talking to you now, at this point, I expected to talk about maybe one boy emerging. We were told that they'd come out one by one, that it would be slow, and that the whole thing would take many, many days, possibly. So this is unexpected progress, and it's rapid progress. So there's no indication of a glitch. Instead, they've just said, look, oxygen ran out, we have to get the resources back in order. Look at our plans, they're meeting now, and go back in again. Exactly when that will be, when will it be within that 10 to 20 hour window, we're not sure. But we're going to watch. Everyone here is waiting and watching. Cheers went up when the governor came out to announce that the 4 were out, announced this publicly. But alongside those cheers, alongside that happiness, there's also anxiety for all the boys who are still inside. So this story, this rescue operation still remains an ongoing operation. There's a lot of boys still stuck inside that cave, and they need to be brought out. Natasha?
Nikhil, we might lose you, but I'm going to keep trying with the questions here because I want to drill down a bit. We want to be respectful. Yes, 9 still in the cave, but joyous news about the 4 that have come out. Tell us a bit about the mood when that news was confirmed by the governor.
Well, as I said, Natasha, cheers went up when he came out to announce this publicly. And people have been very happy at the news because, again, as I said, they just weren't expecting such rapid progress. They were expecting at most that we would hear about a boy would have come out because we were told they'd be brought out one by one. We were told that, it would be slow, that it could take days. And then suddenly we have this news in the evening that 4 boys are out and have been moved to the hospital. Ambulances, have been arriving. So a lot of joy and a lot of happiness at the rapid progress that's been made. But again, as I said, all of that joy tempered with some caution about what still remains to be done. These diving teams need to go back in. They need to make sure that the others come back out safely. And we have been concerned, authorities here have been concerned about how the weather might turn over the next few days. The reason the operations began today is because it was judged that today was a good combination of the rain still holding up and the boys being in good health. And so there was a concern about the rains picking up in coming days. So there's going to be a lot of eyes on this operation to make sure that they can get them out before that happens. Natasha?
And are you getting any information about when they anticipate all of the boys will be out?
We don't know that yet. We know that between 10 to 20 hours is the amount of time it'll take for the operation to restart. And once it restarts, we're just going to have to wait and watch. We don't know how long it will take.
Okay.
Today, the conditions were clearly so good, the water levels in the cave were good enough that it happened quite rapidly. We're just going to have to wait for the operation to restart tomorrow and then see what the conditions are like.
Okay, Nikhil, I know I got to let you go. Nikhil Kumar, CNN reporter, get yourself a glass of water. You've been doing great reporting from Chiang Rai, northern Thailand. Thank you so much. Megan Roberts is also following the story, also bringing us the most up-to-date information. So, Megan, you too, right here alongside, were watching the press conference as it was taking place. There really was this sense of relief. Even though neither you nor I speak Thai, you knew it was good news. Talk to us about that.
I mean, you don't have to speak a language to know what a tone is, to see the smiles on people's faces. As we've been covering this, we've been watching a lot of news and information coming out. And I noticed somebody had made a comment once saying that this is the only sports team the entire world is cheering for. They're all hoping that this turns out well, and that you got that sense from this press conference. And there was a rather loud auditory sign that we got from that as well, because there were actually, we've mentioned, cheers that went up, and you don't have to speak a language to know what that means. Let's listen to that moment from the press conference.
16 วันแห่งการรอคอยนะครับวันนี้เราเห็นหน้าหมูป่าแล้วนะครับอย่างที่กราบเรียนพวกเราว่าวันนี้เป็นวันที่สมบูรณ์ที่สุดนะครับ ที่เราภาษาอังกฤษบอกว่า the best situation นะครับสถานการณ์ที่ดีที่สุดที่ผมบอกว่าเรื่องสภาพอากาศ
So you could hear that as well, best situation. The only words that we could understand, though certainly we can understand the cheer as well. And we got some more details, and we've been getting more details. Best situation, those are some really good words that we were all hoping to hear. 4 boys made it out safely. We understand that they are now in hospital being treated. Some details that we've got about how all of this went. We know that they all wore full face masks, that divers were helping to carry some of these boys through the passage. So certainly a lot of effort for these divers, not only to bring themselves through the passage, but also physically helping these young boys through. And we also know that the healthiest of the boys went first. So the 4 healthiest, presumably, and also that the boys traveled 1 kilometer underwater. So these, again, they're inexperienced, young. Some of them didn't know how to swim at the start of this, and they managed, with the help from these expert cave divers, to travel 1 kilometer underwater to go to freedom and to go to safety. So really an extraordinary turn of events, as we've been mentioning. It happened so quickly, and now we're looking forward to that 10 to 20 hour window we've been talking about when we can pick this back up. Also forward to conditions, to rain conditions, to weather, because that is such a big, important factor in all of this. So with those 10 to 20 hours of preparation, we know that everyone will also be watching the skies to see what the weather does, to see if that will have an effect. Natasha.
Okay, thank you, Megan. Okay, one of the biggest concerns about the boys being trapped inside those caves for this long is, of course, their health. Let's turn once again to our medical contributor, Dr. Peter Lin, who joins us on this. And Dr. Lin, before I pose a question to you, I'd like to show folks at home this ongoing scene that we have been watching throughout the morning. It went from daylight now to nighttime, the exterior of the Chiang Rai hospital. Now, the reason why, of course, that location is significant is because 4 boys have been rescued from the cave complex, and according to one Reuters eyewitness, the boys are there. They're at the hospital. They're going to be treated. So what will be the major concerns for the doctors who will be treating them?
Yeah, so basically they're going to check out all of their organs because they want to know, are their kidneys working well, or did they shut down? Is their liver working well? How is their heart? On the ambulance ride, they would have been monitored for their heart to make sure that the heart doesn't suddenly have any regular rhythm or anything like that, because your body needs a certain amount of electrolytes, the salts, to make it work. And obviously they didn't have that. They were dehydrated for at least 10 days. And now with rehydration, hopefully they'll be okay. So they'll be measuring all of those things and seeing what state they're in. And then from there, they're going to be slowly replenishing fluids and also nutrients. Now, obviously, some of the kids wanted to eat fried chicken. They won't be eating fried chicken right away because their system won't be able to handle or digest that, because our body needs to make enzymes to digest all of those things that we eat. And those enzymes come from protein. And of course, they didn't have a whole lot of protein. They were actually breaking down their own muscles to survive during that time. That's what their body was doing. And so they'll monitor all of that. And then over the next couple of days, they will be rehydrated, and hopefully they'll have a nice, smooth recovery from there on it.
So I want to talk to you about the challenges of being in the underground, in a cave for 2 weeks. It's difficult to imagine. We intellectually understand, okay, they were, living in a cave, and there was poor air quality, and they didn't have access to decent food or water. But that really takes a toll on your body, especially after 2 weeks, especially when you're so young. What are you watching for on that front?
Yeah, so lots of things happen. They basically took every resource that they had in their body and used it for energy. So any sugar that they had, any fat that they have, as well as muscle systems that they're having. The other thing is that with the darkness, basically their eyes are not going to be adjusted. So many times when they come out, now thankfully they came out in the evening, so therefore there was no bright sunlight. They're going to have to wear those dark glasses because they won't adjust. Also, their circadian rhythm has been all thrown off. It's kind of like constant jet lag. You have no idea where daytime, nighttime is. And when they followed divers that had lived in caves in the dark for a long period of time, when they came out, their sense of time was all wrong. Their sleep pattern was all wrong. So all of those things will have to readjust as the body realizes that there's daylight. They're missing vitamin D for sure without the sunshine. And also living in a bat cave. There are bats in caves. I'm not sure about that particular cave, but there is worry that the bat droppings can also give something called bat cave disease, which is really histoplasmosis, which is a fungus that can grow in the lungs. So therefore the doctors will be probably checking them with chest x-rays and things like that. If they develop coughs, they'll be watching for these things over the next 2 weeks or so as they recover.
You know, all of these things, Dr. Lin, you don't even think of. The bat droppings, my goodness, how much people have to deal with. I want to talk to you about the health of the Navy SEALs and the rescue divers in a second, because I want to share something that the Thai Navy SEALs just posted on their Facebook page. They're wishing everyone pleasant dreams on their Facebook, saying that it's been a successful day for the rescue operation. They're wishing everyone a good night because they have worked so hard. And I feel like maybe we need to talk a bit about that. The toll physically and psychologically this takes on the divers, the amount of pressure that they are under.
Yeah, and we see the same thing in firefighters and all the rescue workers that we've seen before in disasters. Basically, they're running on adrenaline because they want to get the job done, so they will be pushing themselves hard. And it's actually up to the controllers, the people that are organizing this, to make sure that they don't send in exhausted divers. And that's part of this break that they're getting is actually a good thing. They're reloading oxygen. I'm sure they're going over their heads. How do we make this safer? How do we make it easier for the boys, especially the weaker boys coming out? But it's also a good time for the divers to get a rest, because they need to be physically in good shape, because remember, there's some parts that they said they had to carry the children. So whether it's walking up and down some of these treacherous areas, they were actually carrying the children, and so therefore they have to be strong. And that might be one of the reasons why they used more oxygen, because they were carrying the children or having to spend more time moving the kids around because they couldn't kick on their own, for example. And that might be why we need more oxygen, for example, tanks, and they're waiting for that to be recharged. And so therefore the psychological aspect of it is they want to do well, they want a positive outcome, and they don't want anything bad to happen on their watch, because these kids are really their whole life at that moment, and the kids' lives are completely in these divers' hands. So that's a huge responsibility. But thankfully, these are all trained SEALs and trained divers, so therefore they're capable. But I think the people that are managing them are rightly giving them a good break before they go back into the caves.
Okay, Dr. Lin, always good to get your expertise on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
CBC's medical contributor, Dr. Peter Lin, joining us in Toronto. Once again, this is a look at the hospital in Chiang Rai, Thailand. Reuters is indicating that, in fact, the 4 boys who have been recovered, rescued from that cave complex, have made their way to this hospital where they will be treated. Stay with CBC News Network for ongoing coverage.
It can be hard to keep up with the pace of news.
We are getting some encouraging reports from Thailand where there is a rescue operation going on as we speak. Divers have now rescued 4 members of a soccer team trapped by the water in those caves. Ambulances reportedly carrying some of the boys have also been seen leaving the rescue site. Now, 12 boys and their coach have been trapped in that cave for more than 2 weeks. We have now received confirmation from the governor that 4 are out, and we understand that rescue operations have paused for the evening while they reassess how things should move forward. But with background on some of the soccer team, because let's not forget, all these little boys and the coach are sports fans. And Rob Pizzo is here to talk about that. I think this part of the story is so important, Rob, because these are kids, these are people's kids. Tell us what makes them special.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because we keep hearing that they're a soccer team and they've been trapped in this obviously very difficult situation over the last couple of weeks. And this is where the team really does come together. And the video I've seen, at least, it surprises me just the looks on their faces where they're dealing with such a difficult situation, yet they kind of seem to be remaining a team. So let's get to know a couple of these players. We're going to start with Abdul Samon. He's 14 years old, and how you probably know him, he was on that video where the rescuer said, "How many are you?" And he said 13. And, you know, and that's the one that's kind of made its round. He's one of the only players on the team that actually speaks a little bit of English, but he also speaks Thai, Mandarin, Burmese. I mean, this is someone who can do a lot of speaking right there. Then you have Panumis Sungdi, 13-year-old defender, and coaches really love this guy. If we can start inserting a little sports here. He's an ideal defender. They said he's fluid. He's got a high fitness level. He's 13, but he plays like he's 15 years old. And finally, Shanin Wabunrangrang, youngest member of the team, just 11 years old, plays forward for the club, and has been playing soccer for the last 5 years. So, you know, these are soccer players, as you mentioned. There's the biggest soccer tournament in the world going on right now in the FIFA World Cup. We know they've extended an invite. They said, first off, hopefully we've got to get this team out safely. But if they do get out safely and in time, we'd love to have them at the World Cup final next week. So, yes, it's obviously a heartbreaking story, but it'd be nice to see them at the World Cup final.
It sure would, Rob. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Once again, a look at the hospital in Chiang Rai where 4 boys are being transported where they are going to receive medical treatment. Who knows? Maybe one of the boys Rob was talking about is there right now. We'll bring you all the updates as they come in. Stay with CBC News Network for ongoing coverage.
Tommy Ross could have walked away with the championship, but instead, he's just walked away.
These are scenes from Chiang Rai, Thailand, where a cave rescue operation began many hours ago and is currently on pause. And just a short while ago, the local governor confirmed that 4 of the boys trapped by the flooding inside that cave, who've been in that cave since June 23rd, have been rescued and they're being taken to hospital. Those are the ambulances making their way to the hospital. The mission could take 3, possibly 4 days, but so much of this story has been unpredictable. Some of those trapped are as young as 11 years old, and some are described as weak swimmers. So we've been bringing you ongoing coverage throughout the morning. I'm going to sign off soon, but my friend and colleague Michael Serapio is going to take over. So Michael, what are we watching for over the next few hours?
Well, certainly we're looking for the final updates, because this has been an evolving story, which Natasha, great job all through the morning covering all that. But this has been an evolving story, including the speed at which they're able to recover these 4 boys. Many people thought it would be a slower operation. It turned out not to be. 4 boys are now out, the confirmation coming from the Thai officials. But as we say, 4 boys are now out, but there still means about 8 others are still trapped inside that cave, as well as the coach, not to mention the rescuers who are trying to help them out, because inside that cave are not only other divers, but other divers with medical experience, as well as they try to rehydrate the remaining boys to make sure that they are strong enough for what is a dangerous rescue mission. So a bit of an emotional roller coaster that we've been tracking today. Yes, the success of 4 boys being brought out to safety, but still the question of the safety of the remaining members of that soccer team and that coach. So to that, we're not only going to go back to Chiang Rai throughout the day to get the latest updates as we summarize the day, we're also going to stay on top of the deliberations, because they say they need 10 to 20 hours for that oxygen resupply. That is very important, but up against that is also considerations of weather, whether or not there's going to be more rain, will that cause more flooding, the oxygen inside the cave itself, whether or not that may necessitate an unexpected another part of this rescue. So we're definitely going to be talking about that. And to that, coming up a little bit later in today's programming, we're going to speak with a member of the International Underwater Cave Rescue and Recovery Team. We're going to get an idea of the different factors that they are going to have to measure in the coming hours. Also coming up, we're going to go to Stanford University. We're going to talk to members of their medical center to get an idea of how these boys even begin to recover. How do you get the boys who are still inside that cave ready enough to undertake such a dangerous dive? And again, we heard it today. The first 4 boys that were taken out were the strongest. That means those boys that remain inside the cave may be weaker swimmers, may be in a weaker state of physical care. And so that is what we're going to be watching out for. We're going to talk to Stanford Medical about that one. And of course, throughout the day, keep going back to Thailand to get the very latest from the officials.
We'll certainly be watching. Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome.
Once again, this is a look at the Chiang Rai Hospital in northern Thailand. As Michael mentioned, we received confirmation that 4 boys have been rescued. There are still 8 boys inside, including their coach. Rescue operations have been put on pause for the next 10 to 20 hours. We've been bringing you up-to-date coverage and will continue to do so over the day. You're watching CBC News Network.
I love starting my mornings with Canadians from all across the